It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, welcome along to episode 68 of the TradeMate Sports Betting Podcast. Bit of a change up this week, live betting preview. Not just focusing on the EPL this week, we'll do a couple of games, but we're more so focusing on all of this weekend's Euro football action. Rather than just preview games with not much betting insight, thought we would cover the games that our two spectacular guests have some insights for. If you have any questions related to this weekend's games, please make sure you send them in through the YouTube chat or Facebook chat or Twitter chat. I should be able to get them all through on my feed here, and we'll try and get them answered throughout the podcast. Or if maybe towards the end, we'll get it done too. Firstly, I'll introduce our card betting expert and the man who's full of stats, George Gamble, mate. Not the greatest week for yourself last week. You're very quiet over the messages on the weekend. I might note you've fallen to a dismal 8 out of 12 record for your best bets of the weekend, mate. Dismal.
I mean, let's be honest. Overall, it's still not a bad record, is it? But no, in those two particular ones, obviously some good price in there. But it was so close to happening. One card off in both games. I think it was going against the rubber, the green as well. Particularly Celta Vigo. You know, they average over 3 cards a game away from home, and it was a colossal foul count as well. But referee decided to only show 1 card throughout the entire game, which is a completely just unheard of for a Celta Vigo away game this season. The other one, Stuart Atwell, obviously giving all the cards to Leicester, it seems. But no, the thing is, they're the same. If I was presented with those bets again, looking at all the stats behind them, what's going on, I'd have taken them again, and that's all you can ask, really. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But no, there was no fault in kind of the process of picking them.
Good, mate. It happens. Mate, we've got a new guest on the show this week. His name's Nigel Seeley. For those who don't know, he's from Premier Sports Plays. Tipster, odds compiler turned tipster. How are you, mate?
Odds compiler, marketing manager, jack of all trades, expert of nothing, jobs worth on everything. I'm very well, Alex. Thank you very much for being here. I'm very well to be here. I know we've got George's nans in the back room there in his spare room. Just say thank you very much for having me on. But it's an honour. It's an honour to be on. I thought I was watching an episode of Mrs. Brown's Boys when I saw George's room there, but obviously I'm not. But I just joking aside. I'm very honoured to be on here. Thank you very much for having me on, and hopefully steering everyone in winners. But you're coming to me on the back of my worst ever weekend in 25 years of gambling. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So let's hope we can turn that around on its head during the course of this next 30 minutes or 40 minutes or so.
We'll see how it goes, mate. But don't get George too angry. He's not a nice person when you get him angry. So
it's not me you want to worry about, mate. It's my nan, because she chose that wallpaper. If she is, she's going to kick off.
I was going to say, I'm surprised she must be asleep by now. We'll keep the noise down.
Well, truth be told, it's my parents. My nan's been dead for about 20 years, but we won't go.
She's not next door, is she? Surely she's not next door, surely.
I hope not.
Sorry about that.
Nice, fellas. Nige, do you want to just give a quick explanation of what you do, kind of what you've done in the betting industry, that kind of stuff for the listeners?
Yeah, I've been around for a long time. I mean, I was on it to bring the average age of the podcast up with you two young guys. But what I've done for years, I was an odds compiler for a couple of the bookmakers. I was involved in Stan James. When they first started doing in-running betting, I was an odds compiler for Stan James, the first firm to do in-running betting. I was around with spread betting first started back in the 90s. I was a journalist for the Sun newspaper doing betting columns, and I've done lots of radio stuff and TV stuff through the years on Sky Sports and Talk Sport. And now I focus primarily on the American market. I've got a website called Premier Sports Plays, and we just provide betting tips and stuff on tennis, football, and golf, which I provide the tennis and the soccer tips. And last couple of seasons we've been doing amazingly well on the tennis, showing a good percentage of about 10%, and on the soccer about 8%. But this year it's all gone a bit to Pete Tong with COVID. Is especially in the lower levels of English football, it's been very difficult, very, very difficult. And a lot of pro punters out there are having probably their worst run for a long time. And I'm not saying that because I'm having a bad run, but everyone I speak to is struggling at the moment. And it's a strange time we live in, but form is temporary, but class is permanent, isn't it? So hopefully we'll turn that around.
Let's hope so, mate. Hopefully we can pick out some good ones today. Mate, what we do, start of the podcast, do a little quiz question of the week, and then at the end, we'll get to the answer just to try and keep people on board for the whole podcast, keep them waiting and anticipation for the quiz answer. So the quiz question for this week is revolving around the Manchester derby. So who scored the most recent goal in a game between Manchester City and Manchester United? So get to the answer towards the end. So get your brains tickled there, and hopefully George can keep his incredible streak going too. He should get this one, mate.
Yeah, I know it.
No, he's just too good.
Brian Robson. show my age there.
I've never heard of him, mate.
You've never heard of him?
Oh, my word. Captain Fantastic. Captain Fantastic. England captain, 1986, Man United legend.
Sorry, fellas. My football knowledge doesn't date back too far, so sorry.
Call from you, Alex. Was expecting better, to be honest, but
yeah. All right, let's look at Manchester. Let's look at the odds for the derby as I get it up on my screen here. Hopefully, you guys can all see that. So we've got Manchester City best odds at about 1.81 at Unibet, but most bookies are a bit lower than that. Draw 4.3, but you can get about 4.3 in a few places. And Manchester United best odds at 4.6 on Bet Victor there. I guess heartbreak in midweek for Manchester United as they failed to make it out of their group in the Champions League. So back to Thursday night football for them. Lots of memes going around the internet about that. You'd be loving it, George. But surprisingly, they're actually on a 4-match winning streak in the EPL after that defeat to Arsenal. It's quite funny what's happened ever since that Manchester United versus Arsenal game. Basically the winner of that game, Arsenal, has gone on a terrible run, and the loser's gone on an absolute great run. So funny stuff there. City, bit of a bounce back since the loss to Spurs, winning 4 of their last 5 in all competitions. And City have not really fared well lately against United, wouldn't you say, George?
Yeah, we've struggled somewhat against them, and it always seems to be the case of City are absolutely battering them. It's basically a carbon copy of what we saw in the City Spurs game. With City just literally bombarding their opponent's penalty box, not really doing so much, and then getting hit by 2 goals just out of nowhere, really. I think it's about time that City put one over on them. I mean, obviously United won both the league meetings last season as well, didn't they? I don't think they've won 3 in a row since around between 2008, 2010. But no, City they've improved though. I know in terms of I know a lot was made about their defence at the beginning of this season. In terms of they're very kind of easy to get at, easy to kind of score against, and particularly when they were only scoring 1 goal in each game, they weren't firing on all cylinders. It was tough. But one thing that does interest me is they've spent a lot on their defence. It's well known how much they've spent on their defence. But since Ruben Diaz has come in, he's been fantastic. He's kind of got that. It's early days, but in terms of when Kompany came in, he was very vocal. He was commanding. More importantly, he loved defending. That's what he enjoyed doing. You get this, the John Stones, people like that, who they do like to bring the ball forward. They like to be kind of flashy and that kind of centre half. And we've really lacked someone of that Kompany kind of caliber who just loves defending, gets stuck in, is tough. And Ruben Diaz has kind of fitted that mould really, and now he's sort of settled in. City looks so much more solid defensively. So I mean, I'm looking obviously I've always been a City fan. So I'm looking forward to this one. I mean, I'm not. I always get nervous for Derby Day because, as I said to you, for the North London one, in my opinion, form goes out of the window with the Derby. But no, you're right. We've not fared well there lately, but they've been awful at home this season. Let's not forget their only winners come by 1 goal against West Brom, and before that, they'd lost 3 of the other 4, drawing at home to Chelsea as well. So yeah, they are abysmal at home. It seems to be their good fortune comes away from home. So there's kind of a lot of possibilities with this one. I think, with City, I personally say we're still not firing all cylinders. I don't really think you can put too much onus on the fact they beat Burnley 5-0 or beat Fulham. They're teams that we should be beating and should be pumping, really. No disrespect to them, but they're not of the same kind of ilk as the Uniteds, Liverpool, Chelsea's, that tier below. So we should be beating them, and it's these kind of games that you want to see where we're at. Even when we played Liverpool, we had the chances to kill off the game, didn't do it, conceded, only got a point, and the City of old would never have done that. We'd have put them to the sword. So it's a tricky one. This, I don't think the prices for City to win reflect the true chances. I think they're far too short for me to be wanting to get on a City win. United from, because what did you say? What price did you say they were at? Was the best price on odds checker?
United 4.6.
I think that's considering they won both games last season. I know they've been awful at home this season, and they've obviously had that sort of upset during the week, which was great. But for me, it was short-lived because it always seems that when something goes wrong for Solskjaer and United, they pull a big result out of the bag the next time. And unfortunately, it's you can't really get much lower than dropping out of the Champions League like that, can you? And then obviously to have the Manchester derby right after it is a brilliant chance to make a statement for them. So I'm nervous for it. I think United could easily get their second home win of the season here. I mean, we should be beating them. City should be beating United, but like I said, it's a derby. Anything can happen. With the way things go and the way City are, I wouldn't like to say which way it's going. I can only view the prices, and I think City are far too short to be getting behind in this one. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's kind of my thinking on it.
Yeah, your thoughts, Nige?
Well, the first thing I think of is I think everyone's going on about what a crisis there is at Manchester United, but they're above Man City in the table. Let's not forget that. And everyone's saying I think Pep Guardiola has a very disappointing season with regards to the Champions League. There's no shock to me. They were the third best team in the group, and they finished third. The fact is they got off to a flyer, and where they were in the league, they should have sailed through. The result away at Turkey is the one that absolutely cost them. That was the one that was their Achilles heel. You can't judge them again against Leipzig. The problem with Manchester United, if anybody's come down and watched Manchester United this season, for the first 45 minutes, they've been a local pub side. When they haven't got the ball, defensively, they're atrocious. Wan-Bissaka's playing too much of a high line. Maguire still doesn't look the same player after his personal problems he had in the season break. I still think that's affected him massively. And defensively, they're an absolute shambles. When they played West Ham last week, they could have been 3-0 down at half-time. Against Southampton, they were 2-0 down. But going forward, they're as good as anybody. When Rashford gets the ball and the pace he's showing now, he's got an extra yard of pace and he's got confidence as well. I think that they're dangerous. They're very dangerous. The problem with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is I don't know how many players, big-name players, at Man United want him. And that's a big problem. When you've lost the dressing room or you've got your back's against the wall, you want players who will play for you. When Mourinho was at Chelsea, they had the likes of Drogba, John Terry, Frank Lampard, and Peter Cech, who would run through a brick wall for him. I can't see Paul Pogba sitting. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put in a performance tonight to keep Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He wants the readies. His agent comes in, he gets a manager, gets another 5-year contract at Man United, and he starts performing if Pochettino goes there. That's the difference. So you've got players who if you want to play, you need to get them out. You get them out of trouble. I look at this game and I want to swim against the tide. I think the goals market is the interesting one here because I do believe 130 or 4.6 on the exchange is a big price for Manchester United, but I couldn't loathe myself to bet them. I think the best way to back them is +1/2 when you get the draw on your side and get the draw around about even money. I think that's possibly the best way to play. But I think the goals angle here is everybody expects goals. If you looked at the game this season against Liverpool, Manchester City, everyone was backing over 2.5, over 3.5. It didn't really materialise. And I think Manchester City, however much they are getting better, the two performances, the last 3 wins have been against Burnley. They always beat 4 or 5-0. That bloke on I'm a Celebrity says a happy place. He's got a terrible life, that fella. Fulham, who were 2-0 up, and they could have probably went on, but a 2-0 win at Fulham after 20 minutes of 2-0, expected to score 4 or 5. And a Marseille side that were completely and utterly out of their depth in the Champions League. So they haven't really played anyone yet. So I don't think these goals are necessarily the overs. I think if you look at Man City's game, 9 of their last 10 matches, both teams have scored has been a no. And that's very unlike Man City. You usually score 4 or 5 and let one in. Defensively, they've been very, very strong. And I think with the nature of the game for Solskjaer, I think he might go at it not to be too gung-ho. Because if he goes too gung-ho against Man City, it could end up 2-3 against you. And I think they need to shorten the defence. So I'm looking to go swim against the tide and go under the goals here, under 2.5 or under 3.5. I can't really read that. What do you got under 3.5 there?
Under 3.5, you can get about 150 in a few places, and you can get under 2.5, you can get about 2.28, 2.3.
Yeah, maybe that would probably be my lean. Both teams are scorers and no, but I don't think it's going to be as entertaining as everyone wants, because for different reasons for both these sides, this is a crucial match. Yeah. Obviously for Solskjaer and Manchester United, and Manchester United win this game and not go against them, they could go second or third in the Premier League table. If you think Man City are going to win and win well, you're much better off to going back only going to Solskjaer at 2-1 or 5-2 to be the next Premier League manager to lose his job. Because you're going to get a much bigger. You get a much bigger. If they get beat 3-0, he's gone. So if you can bet that, you're much better off. But I think the under the goals is the way to go in that game.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I mean, I don't know how much you can sort of read into previous head-to-heads. A lot of things change over time. But looking at the head-to-heads at Old Trafford in competitive matchups of the last 5, there's only been 3 or more goals in one of them. Otherwise, it's been under 2.5 has landed in 4 out of those 5 games at Old Trafford as well. I mean, I'm inclined to agree. I think it's very rarely do you get it kind of match up with the hype that's coming towards when you've got on the weekend of it's a derby, there's going to be loads of goals. Very rarely does that come to fruition. Usually it's a bit underwhelming, not many goals, very tight, very cagey. So I'd be inclined to agree with that one. I think even under 2.5 is a great price, but if you want to play it safer, that under 3.5 definitely I think is a good shout.
Just one other thing about Man City, I watched them. We also watch a lot of football. I saw Aguero score in midweek, but Aguero doesn't look fit to me. He's carrying a bit of weight for me. I don't think he's the same player. And Jesus is absolutely lacking any confidence whatsoever. I mean, he's a centre forward for Manchester City. He plays for Brazil. Could probably pull any bird in the Arndale Centre, and he should be full of confidence. But the young kid has got absolutely no confidence whatsoever. So that is a problem.
Yeah, no, completely agree with that. I mean, I remember, I think it was just before he came back, but then got injured again. And, the Aguero of old, he plays on that last man. He's waiting to burst in behind, cause problems. That's, the Aguero that we've known over the years. And at some points when we were attacking, he was just sort of dawdling and jogging up through the midfield, like trying to get there, but wasn't too interested. He was like, okay, he's got an injury. But, he's nowhere near fit enough. And it's telling, I personally don't think he's... I mean, it's a bold statement to make, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see him ever getting back to the heights that he was. I think he's just at that point now where he's taking a slight dip, and I don't see him getting back to, being that lethal striker on a consistent basis throughout the season. I don't see him getting back there, and it ties in with, but because you want to play Sergio Aguero, because if he's fit, you play him. Obviously, we can question the fitness overall, but yeah, Gabriel Jesus doesn't know if he's in or out. He doesn't know if he's going to be the main man up top there, or he just doesn't know. You can't be confident if you're not playing games. I mean, I've seen it recently with John Stones. When he plays and he's fit, he's a very good centre half, and he plays on confidence. He's brilliant. But as soon as he makes a mistake or he's not confident, he's not quite fit, his performance just goes. And I think it's similar with Jesus. A lot of the time, given the chance, he scores and he's a very good player, but he needs a consistent run to get that confidence, and you'll see just how good he is. But because with Aguero not quite fit, but you kind of play him, Jesus not playing all the games and he's not quite confident, it just means that we're short of an excellent centre forward who knows exactly what his job is and knows that he's going to be in the team. We don't have that.
Terrific. Love it, boys. So we'll go, Nigel, you're liking the unders, under 3.5, under 2.5. You can get under 2.5 at about 2.28, 2.3. And then George, you're still happy to take United at 4.6?
No, I was merely saying that it was a very good price. So I did like that price. I wouldn't be so sure about getting on it. There's nothing that sort of says to me, yeah, that has a very good chance of happening, because for me, this one could go either way. I agree here, because I did see it as well. The fact that, in the head-to-heads at Old Trafford, only one of them has gone over 2.5 goals. I think it's going to be a cagey affair. I don't see there being a hatful of goals. I might be a bit more... What were you going for? Were you going for the under 3.5 safe, or were you going the under 2.5?
I would probably go. I'd have a lean towards all three, and I don't. When I say three, I mean both teams to score as a no as well. I would be surprised to see Man United very. So I would probably at the prices. I'm not really interested in betting 2 on shots, but I'll probably bet the under 2.5 at 2.3.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with that. Just looking at the statistics and kind of the price as well, I think they've got it the wrong way around. Personally, I'd have the overs just over evens, if anything, and the unders probably a shorter. So yeah, I'd go with the under 2.5 as well. I do quite like that one.
Tremendous, fellas. Good start. George, mate, you want to take us to the championship now? We'll come back to the EPL later, but you've got some insight here on QPR Reading.
I do indeed. It's a kind of bet that I've been following for the last few weeks, really, that's done quite well. Teams who play Reading just seem to pick up a load of cards. And it's just, Reading, I think they're the most fouled side on average per game in the championship. Just kind of looking through it here. The last 5 games, their opposition who they've been playing, they've received 4, 4, 3, 5, and 2 cards. And it's just ridiculous. Even teams, I don't know, it's Nottingham Forest. I think it was their last match. Not the one when they played Birmingham midweek, but before that they played Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest average, I was just looking here, I think it was about 1.3 cards per game away from home. Obviously got the red card, got a couple of yellows as well. So they cause teams to make challenges. And QPR, they can be quite feisty when they need to be, particularly at home. Their last 5 games, they have seen, I think it was 2. They saw nil, but no. The referee for that nil was literally, I think he averages about 1.2 cards a game himself anyway. 1, 4, and 1. But before that, Nottingham Forest has something very similar to that, and obviously Reading drew a lot of fouls from them. So I'm just looking at the prices as well for the QPR, say 30, 40, and 50 plus. Obviously, just stagger it. I mean, for 30 plus alone is 11-4, and considering the last 5 teams who've played Reading, that's landed in 4 out of those 5. I quite like that one at 11-4, and again 40 plus is 6-1, and if you want to have a small amount, I think 16-1 for 50 plus, which has also landed in one of their recent games, is a massive price. And obviously the referee is Tony Harrington, so he averages 3.08 cards a game. In the last 5 games, he's shown 4, 3, 6, 4, and 1 card. So I personally think those prices are far too high for QPR against a side who are one of the most fouled sides in the division. Purely for prices is the reason I quite like this one. So yeah, QPR 30 plus points is 11. Do you want me to do the odds conversion for you?
Yeah, I'm on that right now.
So
we got 11-4.
11-4 is 3.75. Then obviously you got 6-1, which is obviously 7, and then 16-1, that's 17. I mean, I personally want to be happy, kind of spreading that, just because I think the way Reading are, it's landed in so many games for Reading this season, whoever they've played. I think those prices are too good to ignore, personally. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on the QPR Reading game. It's one I'll be looking forward to as well, particularly with Tony Harrington in charge.
I'm a QPR fan. I'm a QPR fan actually, so I'm quite interested in that one. But the thing is, I'm more interested because I just think that anyone called Tony Harrington is going to be a job's worth, and it's a real job's worth. You can imagine being a parking. Tony Harrington, he's going to be a right one. So I think the bookies, with name Tony Harrington, we've got to go over.
Yeah, I mean, but I was looking at it as well in this one. In the last 20 games that he's refereed, he's shown the home side at least a card in 18 of them, and obviously predominantly more than anything, most of them are kind of 20 booking points, 30 plus booking points. So, he favours giving the home side cards, as you can see, over the last 20 games. So everything kind of leans to it's worth having a go at those prices. So, yeah, I'll be getting on those 3 for sure.
Let's go, Tony. Let's see some yellow, eh? Nigel, Real Sociedad versus Eibar, mate. Kick us off. What do you got?
I really like the unders in this game. I spoke to you, Alex, when we sort of spoke about doing this, and I was saying I played the unders in the cricket, and you said you sort of mocked at me. Who plays unders nowadays in year 2020? Everyone plays overs. But let me tell you, when I first started, anyone who played overs in football matches was considered a mug better. Everyone who bet unders, all the shrewdies bet unders. Obviously, the game's completely changed now. But this game here just looks like an unders match to me completely. If you look at Eibar, their games this season average 1.42 goals per game in the Spanish league. The Spanish league is a very low-scoring league this season. The average goals in La Liga is 2.37. If you compare that to other leagues around Europe, it's a very, very low-scoring game. Sociedad, despite being at the top of the table, averaged 2.25 goals per game. That's the cumulative goals per game, not them. That's the cumulative goals per game. And the same with Eibar, 1.42. And Sociedad have just played a game against Napoli, a heartbreaking defeat for me. I bet Napoli and even money. But they had so much possession, Sociedad, and they couldn't score until the 92nd minute. That absolutely destroyed me. If you look at Eibar's recent games, there's 7 matches. The last 7 matches, all 7 have gone under 2.5 goals. The last 7 games, 3 of them have been 0-0, and some of their XG ratings are probably some of the lowest that you will see in Spain this season. A couple of games 0.3, 0.2s, unbelievable. It's a local derby as well. Both sides from the Basque district in Spain, so it's a local derby. And if you look at Sociedad, they started off the season scoring goals for fun. Now they're at the top of the table. They've suddenly changed the way they play because they're realising it's a strange season in Spain. You know, Barcelona and Real Madrid are off the pace, and they could throw up a sort of a Leicester scenario in Spain. So suddenly they're realising at Christmas they didn't expect to be in this position, and their game has changed. They've only lost once this season, but the goals have dried up completely. In the last 4 games they've played, under 2.5 goals has been a winner as well in their last 4 games. Especially with the Thursday night as well. I think that's a big factor as well for them. They did rest their best 2 players this evening, and they're going to play David Silva, the Manchester City midfielder, and Razabal, their top goal scorer, will probably be back unless it was some kind of injury concern. But I think if you look at it,
I think they're in. I think they're injured. I've just got because I was looking at the suspensions and injury list earlier. Whether obviously it's sportsgambler.com, I think it says, and it's saying David. Because I was going to ask you if it ties in with a few injuries. You know, because Silva, Larramendi, or Yarzabal. Larramendi's due in apparently, or expected to return early Jan, and it's saying David Silva and Oyarzabal back in a few weeks. So I don't know.
Well, they left them out. They left them out today from the squad, and I thought it may be just because they were saving them for the league. But obviously that makes the unders even a better case. But purely and simply on the goal XG, and if you look at the history and the fact it's a derby, I was absolutely staggered that the under 2.5 goals was 4-5, which I bet this morning. I don't know if it's still there, but that's 1.8 on the decimal odds. I would be tempted to bat the under the 1.5 as well, because I think 1 goal will win this. I think Sociedad will probably edge it, but this will be a typical derby. And with all the stats, the goal XG, the lowest, Eibar are the lowest scorers in Spain. They get the lowest ratings in Spain, and Sociedad have just completely changed the way they played now that they're sort of towards the end of the top of the table coming into Christmas. So that's quite a confident pick for me, under 2.5 goals in that match. On Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, so you can get you can get 1.8 at Bet365 currently. Would you take that at under 2.5?
I've already taken it, and I genuinely don't think that price will be there tomorrow. I'll be amazed. I think it'll be a moving market, especially now they've just come back from that game. Now I know it's not far to travel, but it's teams coming back from Europe, especially in these COVID times. It's not, you don't really get a performance out. It was always a nightmare anyway to play on the Thursday. Now it's even more of a nightmare. So yeah, I think that that was going to be very, very cagey and very low scoring.
Yeah, terrific. And you can get, if you mentioned under 1.5, you can get 3.4 at Bet365, and it does seem like Bet365 in both of those markets are the highest prices you can get. And 1.8, it seems to be a little bit out from some of the other bookies have got. So good call, Nigel. We'll see how that one goes, mate. We'll go back to you, George, if I can just get this going as I want it to. Yep. Let's go with the game, Leipzig versus Werder Bremen.
Yeah, so this one's featuring a team that I absolutely love for cards, Werder Bremen. They were very lucky to actually stay in the division last season. I think obviously they won a playoff. I'm trying to remember who they were playing now, but they won the playoff to stay in the division. They're a filthy side. They really are. They just love picking up cards. In fact, this season away from home, they're averaging 2.8 cards per game. But weirdly, they are also one of the most fouled sides in the league. But it's the way they kind of force their opponents to play. They play aggressive. They cause mayhem wherever they go. They're like the Getafe of the Bundesliga. They're just ridiculous. The only qualm I've got with it, and it's kind of annoying with the Bundesliga at the moment, is they're releasing who the referees are for each fixture on the actual day, which is a bit of a pain in the arse. But regardless of that, I think with Werder Bremen, I mean, obviously, again, depending on who the referee is, but it's one to keep your eye on. I quite the look of, again, similar to what I said with the QPR Reading game, the way the Werder pick up cards. So I'll be kind of looking at sort of the 30, 40 plus markets. Because with Leipzig, they only average about 1.4 at home, but the last 5 teams to have played them, like when Leipzig are playing at home, have seen 2, 3, 4, 3, and 2 cards, and they're quite a lot of those. A couple of those, I think, were just quite average teams. Whereas Werder Bremen aren't average when they come to town. They love cards. Like I said, averaging 2.8 per game away in their last 5. They've been really consistent. They've seen. In the last 5, they've seen 3 cards in 4 of them and 2 in the other. But with Leipzig, I think the way they play and the way that Werder play, I can just see Werder having to commit some cynical fouls in order to just keep them at bay. Leipzig's home form is just phenomenal. It really is. Nagelsmann, he's got them playing so well when they're at home. They're so dominant, and Werder are going to have their work cut out for them. So again, depending on who the referee is, I'm going to keep a close eye on it. On the morning, just to see who that is, because I can't remember his name now, Manuel Grafe. If it's someone like him, I probably won't be wanting to have a play on it, just because he's so kind of lenient. But yeah, again, depending on the prices, obviously if it's too short, I won't be having a go. But for something 30 plus, I want at least over, somewhere over evens. So again, I've got to always convert to decimal for you and for your listeners. But yeah, I'd probably be wanting around, I'd say, at least 2.2 I'd be wanting for 30 plus Werder booking points, and then obviously seeing what the prices are from then on for perhaps 40 as well. They're just so consistent with picking up the cards. So again, that's one I'll be keeping my eye on.
Terrific, mate. All right, staying in the Bundesliga and back to you, Nigel. You like something here. Wolfsburg versus Frankfurt.
Yeah, I mean, this is very rare that I'm going to do this. I'm going over the goals, which is very rare.
Love that. Contradict yourself straight away.
Yeah,
you're going overs. That's a mugs game. That is.
Yeah, I know exactly. You got the right one on. You got the right person on. I've looked at this game, and Wolfsburg started off the season in quite tepid sort of manner. They were quite cautious. They were quite boring, and their goal XG was really, really low in the early part of the season. The last 5 weeks, they've got absolutely goal bananas. They've scored 2 goals in all of their last 5 games. They've got some really, really high XG ratings as well. Their average this season is quite low because it's taken into account what they did in the early part. But in the last few weeks, they've really, really been very attack-minded. Eintracht Frankfurt have probably been, for the last 3 or 4 years, one of the most entertaining sides to watch in European football. They really play off the front foot. And I think the Bundesliga is probably the most entertaining league in European football. I mean, everyone's got, Serie A's had, this season to Swallow and Atalanta. But I think consistently, if you look at the Bundesliga, they're absolutely goals galore. And this season, it's been crazy. Last week, there was 9 games in the Bundesliga and 8 went over 2.5. The week before, in the 9 games, there was 6 went over 2.5. And this season, the Bundesliga is averaging 3.32 goals per game, which is almost 1 goal higher than the Spanish league. And these 2 sides are probably one of the best attack-minded sides and also counter-attacking sides in the division. Like I say, Eintracht Frankfurt have been one of my favourite teams to watch for the last couple of seasons. Their form dipped last year. They haven't been that great this year. But they are scoring goals. They've drawn their last 5 matches, but both teams have scored in every single one. Been a couple of 2-2s, a few 1-1s. And I think this game on Friday potentially could be a really, really open, free-flowing game of football with 2 sides that like to go at it and really, really play in the right way. And I bet 8-13, which is 1.62 on the under 2.5, over 2.5. Earlier on today, I think it was William Hills I bet it with. But it was a standout price, and I don't think that will be there. If you don't like the 8-13, the 1.62, and you want your price with a bit more juice in it, go over 3.5. What have we got on that, Alex? Over 3.5 now.
Over 3.5, we have 2.5, 2.4, something around that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just can't see how both of these don't score in the game. I mean, they both concede a hatful, and they both score a hatful. And like you say, and I think both teams will score, but both teams will score at a very low price. It's 150 or about 1 to 2 in fractions. But I think if you don't like the 2.5, I like the 2.5. If you don't like the 2.5, take a nibble on the 3.5, because the way these two match up, I just can't see anything other than goals. So when I'm on, tell me what about that 0-0 you predicted?
Famous last words, mate. But yeah, you can get 1.61, I think, still at Betfair and Smarkets, and 1.6 at Matchbook. Would you take anything below 1.62 though, mate?
Not really. I don't really like betting anything really. I mean, that's about my lowest I go. I mean, I would never really bet something 2 on. I never bet 8 to 15, but 8 to 13, 1.6 is usually about the lowest I would probably go. I give it. I mean, just if you look at the way these two teams are, sometimes if you look at boxing matches, you just get 2 boxers, they're going to go toe to toe and it's going to work out. These two sides are matched up perfectly. They'll both go at it from the first whistle, and they're sort of the entertainers in that league. They're not going to win anything. They're not going to, Wolfsburg may hit the Europa League, but they're the middle table. But they like to put on the show, and I think it's about 1.662. And it's one of those goals that could be a 2-2 draw. It could be a high scoring 3-2 win. So if you don't really want to play, I wouldn't put anybody off playing the 2.5. Sorry, the 3.5. Sorry.
Okay. Terrific. While everyone's listening, before we got 2 more tips to get through before the end of the show, if you could all just give it a like, give the stream a like, maybe just send a quick link to your friend, get it around. We'll see if we can get a few more viewers on board. But George, mate, you've got something here, Lazio versus Verona. You've gone to Italy, mate. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I've never heard Lazio pronounced like that. Say that again.
Lazio.
What was it? Lazio.
Did I say Lazio? Oh, mate.
Loving that, mate. Loving that.
That's the way. Yes, that's Australian, mate. That's how you pronounce it here. Australian English.
There you go. So, it's the Lazio versus Hellas Verona game. I do quite like the look of. Again, from a cards perspective. So, Lazio are joint top at the moment of the disciplinary table. They've got 29 cards in just 10 games. But at home, they're averaging around 3.4 cards per game. And obviously they welcome Verona, who themselves away from home are averaging 2.8 cards per game as well. I was looking at the kind of the referee, and it's Rosario Abiso, and in seasons gone by, he's usually been in the top 5 for cards awarded. He's had a quieter start, but he's still averaging just under 4 cards per game so far this season. I was just kind of looking through it because I'm looking at the perspective of both teams to see 2+ cards, and it's landed in all 5 of Lazio's most recent 5 games at home. Landing every single one of them. With Verona, the last 5 they've seen 3, 3, 4, 1, and 2 as well. So they're not scared of picking up cards themselves. And I just really like this one. I think Lazio are very aggressive, but as are Hellas Verona, not. There's no way I don't see this game turning it a little bit scrappy, and making sure Abiso's busy. So with Abiso as well, looking at the last 20 games that he's had, he's shown both sides at least a card in 19 of them, and I fail to see how he won't show them another couple after that as well. And looking at it, he's shown in his games that he's refereed those last 20, 50+ booking points has landed in 14 of them as well, so 70% of those games. And so I think it's an extremely generous price that saw for both teams to see 2 cards at 23 to 20. So again, I'll convert that for you.
2.15.
There you go.
Look at that.
There you go. So 2.15. I probably have that a little under evens, if anything. So I think we're getting a bit of value on that. I really like Lazio and Verona both to see 2 or more cards apiece at 2.15.
All right. Terrific stuff, mate. Lots of good card stuff from you today. Nigel, mate, last tip for the day. We are going back to the Premier League, and you're taking us to Crystal Palace versus Tottenham.
Yeah, I'd rather not go to Croydon on a Saturday afternoon, but if you insist, I'll go there. It's not really my happy place, or so to speak. But I got mugged there once, so I don't really want to go back there many years ago. So
mate, stop the tip. Let's hear that story.
Anyway, let's go back to Crystal Palace. I think this is a perfect example where people get misled by stats and data in football. And obviously, I know stats and data are a big part of your business, and they're a big part of everyone's business and my business, and we use them. But sometimes we use them intelligently, and sometimes we look at them in the wrong way. And this is a price that's driven up by models and from analysis and shots on target and various different and to possession that have made Tottenham the price they are for to win this match. Now, Tottenham under Mourinho have improved tenfold, absolutely tenfold. They've got belief that they can win. They've got a system, but it gives the opposition the ball and it lets them concede a lot of chances. Their XG is never very high, and they give away so much possession. But I'm old school, and I think you can have all the possession in the world, but the idea is to put the ball in the back of net. And with Son and Kane, they're the most clinical front two probably in European football at the moment, or world football. They'll score goals. So they're low XG, but they score. I mean, when they played against Manchester City, their XG was ridiculously short, but they won 2-0 and absolutely cruised that game, comfortable. Against Arsenal, they gave away, I think it was 68% possession in that match. 68.
Yeah,
but you will never see a more easy 2-0 win. Arsenal offered nothing. They had all the possession in wide areas, and their first objective was to put the ball into the box, where they got Aubameyang and Lacazette going up against two massive, great big units in Dyer and Holberg, who are winning absolutely everything. So this is a price that's driven by data analytics that's got this point to where they're making Tottenham 1.7, I think they are, to win.
I'll get it up.
To win at Crystal Palace. They played last season, right? The final day of last season at Palace. The game ended 1-1. But what price was Tottenham in that game? Tottenham were 1.4 in that game. 1.4. I think one firm were 1.45. Tottenham are 10 times better than they were then. They've got belief, they've got confidence, and they've got a system that's working. What have they done that makes them 1.4 to 1.7 in the space of 6 months? No justification whatsoever. Crystal Palace won 5-1 in the last game against West Brom. West Brom were down to 10 minutes, changed the complete game. But prior to that, they got beaten at home by Newcastle 2-0. And if you look at Palace's record, I think if you look over the last 2 or 3 years in the Premier League, if you had a level bet unit stake on Crystal Palace in big games, in any game, they got you the more return of any other side. But that's because they went to Manchester City and won at 33-1. They've gone to Liverpool and won at 25-1, and they've gone to Arsenal and won at probably about 1-2 the way Arsenal are playing them. But the thing is, the problem is that at home they get beat. At home they always get beat by the big sides. They played Tottenham last year at Tottenham Stadium. Tottenham won 4-0. They did draw this game last season. But my point is, this is the only reason they are this price is because of these stats. And I think data is fantastic, and if you use it correctly, it's great. But I think that Tottenham will be. It reminds me very much when Leicester won the Premier League title. Leicester were always overpriced because they gave away possession. And look what happened there. They won the title. Every week, everyone said, oh, Leicester will slip up here. Oh, Leicester, they give away too much possession. But they played the system. They had Vardy on the counter-attack. They soaked everything up and hit them on the break. And it's exactly what Tottenham are doing. And it's exactly how the first goal come about. Soak it up. Both goals come about. Soak it up Arsenal possession, and then bang. Son scores a worldie. They break and put one through. Clinical. And that's the difference between Tottenham and Palace. And I think at 1.7 compared to 1.4 in June, it's just a ludicrous overreaction.
Well, you can still get higher than that in a lot of bookmakers. I mean, you can easily get 1.75. You can get 1.8 in some places. But don't you think it's a different kind of game, Nigel, that it's kind of on Tottenham, I guess, to press the advantage here? Or do you think they're just going to do exactly what they did to Arsenal?
Have you ever seen Jose Mourinho change his tactic? He builds teams on solid unit, and people know what they're doing for him. And Holberg at the moment looks the most like accomplished player. He's best player in his position as is. They don't look like conceding. They give away position. And Palace, they've got Sahar. Okay, yeah, he's a world-class player. But other than that, if they can contain him, what do they offer? I mean, I'm a QPR fan. I'm a huge fan of Eze. I think he's going to be a massive talent, but I think he's probably a year too early for the Premier League in glimpses. But what he does, he gives the ball away too much. He tries too much. And if he gives the ball away in dangerous positions for Tottenham, they just literally get the ball, put it through and score. We had a mate of mine when we used to play football, and I was the midfield maestro. My mate was called Mikhail Hanid, and he was our centre forward. And my job, whatever happened, my manager said, you do nothing flashy. You get the ball and give it to Mikhail. I used to get the ball, give it to Mikhail, we win 3-0. And that's what Tottenham do. They've got a load of workmen who just get the ball, give them to Son and Kane. And if things are going bad for them, they've got the luxury of bringing Gareth Bale off the bench. 1.7 is too big.
Yeah, I potentially agree with that. And also, it's interesting you've said it as well, like what the price they were last time. Obviously, since Mourinho's come in, defensively they're they're just so solid. And I think they've kept a clean in their last 10 games against Palace. They've kept a clean sheet in 8 of them, and now they're even better defensively. And I think the sign, obviously you mentioned Højbjerg as well. I think that was a class signing in that Mourinho said they needed a bit of bite in midfield, someone that's actually going to win it back because they were a bit toothless. Højbjerg committed the most fouls and the most tackles for Southampton last season. So I think that was a very straightforward buy, and it's proven what a good sign it was. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I'm very surprised that obviously if they were 1.4 at the back end of last season, now they're 1.7. But obviously if it's just for the possession stats, then yeah, it's
well, that can be the only thing it can be. What else can it be?
Yeah.
I mean, Crystal Palace haven't gone from relegation fodder to world beaters in 6 months, and Tottenham have gone from a side that were a top 6 team struggling to make Champions League to a team that are genuine title contenders, and they're now 1.4 to 1.7. It can only be that's it can only be that people are thinking they give away 2 possession and their goal XG is extremely low.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other thing is obviously Palace have scored like 4 goals in 2 of their last 4 Premier League games, but even so, I don't think that even if it was just because of that doesn't warrant that shift in price on Spurs. So yeah, I think you're right. It's got to be that. There is no other reason, is there? Really, it can only be that.
Maybe Eze is just so good.
Eze is very good. He's very good, but it's like I say, he's going to be he's probably a year too early for the Premier League. But he's a quality player, but he gives the ball away. And Palace are a sort of side that you'd fancy with a one-off cup game, but Tottenham they're just so much better in every department. Have a go, get the ball, but you're not going to do it. We've got a confidence and we've got a system that works, and the best defensive side in the Premier League as well. I just can't see how they can be that price.
All right, love it. All right, we'll move on. Best bets of the weekend. If you had to pick one of your 3 or 4 games that we've gone through today, George, and you had to narrow it down to one, or maybe you just like all of them, mate, what would you give me?
Oh, I do like all of them, mate. Otherwise I wouldn't have spoken about them. But I think if I knew the ref in the Leipzig Werder game, I'd be going with that. But as I don't, I'm going to go with the next one that obviously I'm probably the most confident in, and that is the Lazio against Verona game for each team to see 2 or more cards. So 20 plus booking points each team. That's I saw that at 23 to 20, so 2.15 on Bet365. I saw that going through there. So yeah, I think that's definitely my best bet of this weekend.
Yeah, terrific. And you, Nigel?
I like them all, obviously. And I mean, there's 3 plays there, but I think if I had to go strongest, I'd have to go for the under goals in Spain. I'd have to go for the Sociedad Eibar game. I mean, it's using like the goal XG and data. That game there, very low scoring averages. I think that in a local derby as well, I'm getting 1.8 on the under 2.5 goals. I think that's a great bet.
All right, terrific stuff, fellas. And just to sum up everything, because we've probably got a few lazy people that don't want to go back and listen. So George has gone with QPR, Reading. I mean, he gave a lot away there, but basically everything overs from about 30 plus booking points there for Reading, I think it was.
No, it's QPR. So every team that every opposition that Reading faced just seemed to get more cards than Clinton's. So yeah, I quite fancy QPR uncovering the 30, 40 and an outlandish 50 plus booking point.
And you've also got Leipzig, Werder Bremen over 30 booking points. Can't remember the price there. What was that?
Well, no, so it's not been released as of yet because the referees aren't there, so bookies are currently not wanting to do it. But if I was to do, what I'll be having to look for is the Werder Bremen, 3 or more cards, so 30 plus booking points.
Yeah. Gee, I'm not doing too good here. We'll give it a third try. Lazio versus Verona. Both teams to score 2 plus cards at 2.15, which you just mentioned. And then, Nigel, you've gone under 2.5. Real Sociedad Eibar at 1.8. You've also gone Wolfsburg, Frankfurt over 2.5 at 1.62. And Crystal Palace, Tottenham to win at you said 1.7, but you can get much better than that. So you can get about 1.75, 1.8.
I've never been greedy, Alex. No greedy. Never been greedy. Just no problem. But I tell you what though, I do think that's going to be quite an interesting market to see where that market goes, because the stats-based bettors will be going for Crystal Palace in the draw, and there'll be a lot of opposition to it. So it's going to be a market that's going to be really. I'm not quite sure whether they're going to get bigger or they're going to get shorter. So I'm happy with 1.75.
Yep. Awesome. You can find these terrific, spectacular guests on Twitter at cgeorgegamble and Seeley_Nigel. You can also check out some of George's write-ups at We Love Betting this weekend. And you can check out Nigel's website, premiersportsplays.com. Fellas, to finish up, quiz question of the week. George, you already know the answer, so we'll let Nigel go first. Who scored the most recent goal in a game between Manchester City and Man United? Can you take Google down, Nigel, please? I can see it on your screen, mate.
I was looking at Corals to see how my half-time bets in the Europa League again. I wouldn't have a clue, but it's got to be someone left. It's got to be someone left field for you to answer that question. So let's go for someone like
midfielder, mate. We'll go give you a midfielder.
What is it? Anthony Martial? I'll go for.
Okay. And you, George?
Well, it was when United beat us 2-0. Anthony Martial scored the first goal.
Yes.
But then Scott McTominay scored in about the 96th minute or something like that to make it 2-0.
If you gave me 22 picks, I wouldn't have got that. I would never got that.
Does he even play anymore, Scott McTominay?
Do you know what? I follow football since I was I've worked for the Racing Post when I was 18 years of age. Yeah. So I've been working for 30 years. If Scott McTominay walked past me in my local Sainsbury's, I wouldn't have a clue either.
I'll tell you what, it's weird. It's interesting. Obviously, you mentioned about Talk Sport earlier, because I do a bit of work, like casual work for Talk Sport, and obviously you see some players, and it's like, I think Darren Bent walked in. I didn't recognise him. Obviously, compared to the telly to real life, it's kind of weird, and I didn't recognise who he was. Hang on, that's Darren Bent. With Scott McTominay though, he's got, no offence to him, but he's got a very forgettable face.
I would never clue. I would not have a clue who he was.
Poor old Scotty. Hope you're not listening, mate. There goes his confidence, if he had any at the moment.
Let's keep talking then.
All right, terrific stuff, fellas. Thanks for coming on. Our next podcast coming out will be talk to a man named Jonathan Mullen yesterday, so that'll come out on Monday. He's a former odds compiler for Canby, racing compiler. So that was a good fun chat. And we also previewed the UFC, which came out about 24 hours ago with Ryan, Smart Sports Trader, and Jonas. So go and check out those podcasts when you get the chance. But other than that, thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure you do a quick rate and review of the podcast and subscribe to us wherever you listen. And if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we talked about today, more so the value betting ones, make sure you start a free week trial of TradeMate Sports and start your value betting journey. Gents, terrific stuff. Good debut from you, Nigel, and we'll see you guys again next Thursday.
Thanks very much, guys. Have a good week.
And yourself. Take care.
All right. See if I can get an outro video going.